Right, Antonio was going to share with us, well, two things. One is that he's been working also on the detention issues, detention centers, and also with indigenous struggles. So, Antonio?
Well, I see some familiar faces and some unfamiliar faces, so les digo, my name is Antonio Diaz, and I'm a local activist here for close to 20 years, and my main focus is indigenous human rights. And no sé qué tan sintonizados están con lo que está haciendo el presidente, pero él ya dijo.
Put it in English because we got translators.
But I speak both foreign languages, by the way. So, President Barack Obama stated that he is basically considering or positive on the United Nations Declaration of Indigenous People's Rights, and which is a good thing. It has not been adopted by the United States yet, but he's considering it, which is more than what the other presidents have done. The United Nations Declaration of Indigenous Human Rights was signed in 2007, September. And Canada there were only 4 nations that refused to sign it. And that was the United States is the single holdout right now. Canada signed it last month. The only thing with it is that it actually has no power. It cannot change any of the laws in any of the countries. I call them all colonial countries that have signed onto it. It does one thing, though, that I believe is something for the future for all indigenous people, is that it makes us all aware of the occupation of indigenous lands globally. We're starting to realize that Aboriginal people in Australia were invaded and exist occupied today, just as we do, or just as the Maori do, just as any nation or tribe from Africa does. Except we happen to live here on this continent, and we're facing very much what everyone is talking about today, and we don't believe in nationalism, which is what I hear here. We do believe in open borders because that is what our ancestors had and enjoyed, the real freedom. So today, indigenous people are in a struggle for land rights. That's what immigration, to me, is about, is land rights. When all these colonial governments started with the Spanish invasion, and then onward with all the other European monarchies that invaded this continent, they partitioned off land, which is apartheid. But it's a word that's not even used when you consider indigenous populations of the Americas. We live in an apartheid system, and we are, like I said, the only good thing about the United Nations Declaration is that we are becoming globally aware of this, and we will continue to move towards changing that. So nationalism for us is not a consideration at all. Instead, we are more for the opening of ancestral migratory paths that existed for thousands of years for us. Denying us that is denying us a human right. And that is within the United Nations Declaration, as Maria was saying, that when you declare yourself as an equal with pursuing everything that any other human being has, regardless of what government, nationality, or ethnicity, or where you come from, you have the same right. And that is being denied to the indigenous populations of the Americas today. And it's still not even which is the main reason why the United States has held out so long on signing this. Because some of the northern tribes see the signing of this declaration as their ability to secede, basically, from the United States, which won't happen because the laws will not change, the Constitution will remain the same. But that is one of the thoughts that was also why Africa was concerned over the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights was the right to migrate, and they thought they would lose populations and therefore have their economy affected. And I think it's the same for the United States, except that as we've seen the United States develop, we see it more as what they tried to implement back in the 20s and 30s as fascism, and it's taken a very good hold here in the United States, where corporate power is leading the politics of the government, which includes everything, the military aspect of it, and which I'd have to bring up the DREAM Act. I mean, the military components of the DREAM Act are very blatant, and which is one reason why I don't come out in support for it. And you'll find that most Native people don't. That is just too blatant for us to kowtow to. And we're hoping that most of our Native people that see themselves as Hispanics or Latinos, which to us gives away so much by declaring themselves the identity of the colonial invader and occupier and thief of our lands. We cannot say we have become you in hopes of being treated as an equal. That will not happen. What we need to continue doing is remembering our ancestry and remember the freedom that they enjoyed on our lands. These are our lands, and that is our struggle. Because, like I stated, almost anyone can see it. It is there if you wish to see it. The struggle is over land rights. When you partition land and you tell someone you are a criminal for coming across that river or coming across that mountain or desert that your ancestors used to cross, it would be foolish for us to accept it and accept nationalism. We won't do it. That is our struggle. And also, we're very hopeful for our future that the young people of brown skin will recognize that they didn't become brown people because they're Spanish. They did not become brown people because they speak a dead dialect or language, which is Latin. They became brown people because of the blood that flows through their veins that was of their ancestors from this continent. So we're hopeful that the young people will continue to learn, relearn, and repatriate themselves to their culture and to their people and their ancestors. That is the fight. Because we are millions. We're not thousands, we are millions. But we just don't remember who we were and what rights we have on our own land. This is a small step in this city of San Antonio. As you can see, kind of goes hand in hand with what President Obama did. I received this Monday, but I've been asking for this since October, before we did our march. They didn't want to give it. This is the first time that San Antonio gives a proclamation on indigenous rights. So that was given to us, but I did not want it for Texas Indigenous Council. I wanted it for all the indigenous people that live within Texas. But again, they curtailed the language a little bit and refused to put October 12th or recognize the arrival of Columbus, which we specified, which was the beginning of the invasion of our lands. But coincidentally, receiving this week and then hearing that President Obama is so positive on the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, seems to me that we are starting to break ground as far as the rights of indigenous people, not just here in San Antonio or Texas, but on our continent. So instead of stepping backwards and accepting nationalism, we will step even harder and faster towards recognizing our indigenous human rights and the freedom that we want on our own lands. I was asked by one of those Tea Party people why I thought that the Taliban was resisting so fiercely against the most powerful military force in the world. And I told them, because they're defending their land. They're defending their ancestral land. They're defending their sovereignty, their autonomy, and their freedom, like our people did. We are still viewed as combatants, which is why we have the few rights that we do. Why most of the northern tribes that are recognized are still within reservations. We basically live in one huge reservation on our own continent. With that, I will say, la lucha sigue y la lucha seguirá hasta que ganemos nuestra libertad otra vez. Muchas gracias.